Hello, everybody. It is Tuesday, December 27th, 2022, and we are here for the Wrestling Republic Daily Broadcast. Today, I'm joined by Clark Taylor, Anthony Ricciardi, and Coby Galenzoski. How are you guys?
All right.
Never better, dude. Always happy to be here on a Tuesday morning. It doesn't get much better than just talking wrestling with the boys in the middle of the day. For me, I'm out here in SoCal on a cloudy day, but really no complaints.
This is something which quite a lot of the viewers won't know, right? But I'm here in the UK, I'm in Wales. So I think Clark is actually 8 hours behind me.
Yep.
So like the time differences when we're trying to figure out the timings for this show, it's hilarious. We have to put like 3 different time zones, and even then it doesn't cover all the time zones, as Coby is another time zone in Canada. So we'd actually need like 4 time zones.
And Anthony on the East Coast,
yes,
it gets so out of hand.
Well, we're here. The 4 of us here are in 4 different time zones. Like, it's just, we have no idea, what's going on half the time when we're trying to organize this. But anyway, we're really glad if you're joining us here today. And we've got a few, talking points. We're going to get to the Tag Awards, which we were meant to do yesterday. But in, typical fashion for us, we just rambled for too long. And we're also going to touch on the episodic TV show of the year award as well. But I'm going to pass it to Clark to start off with, as we're going to talk about Baron Corbin talking about Triple H's booking.
Okay, and so Corbin had, quite a bit to say about this yesterday. And I'll start with his first quote was that the show's got new energy, new life. And for me, being on Monday nights, I'm still adjusting and being on the new schedule. Getting into the roster and digging into who can work with and who we want to beat, or who we want to beat up and who has the most punchable face besides me. It's fun. It's nice. We're not rushing anything. That's one thing I love about Triple H. He's a firm believer it's a marathon, not a race, sprint. He likes to slow play things, and he doesn't just waste people. And, Ben, you give me your thoughts on that one, unless you want me to read all 3 quotes here right away. The other one he said is, if you don't have something that is a big-time play or move on television, he's like, then you don't need to be out there because it's not good, or it's not good to just be out there. You want to have a purpose every time you go on television. Still a lot of things for me to get used to, where he's like, hey, stay at home with your family this weekend. Enjoy the weekend. Wait, what? He's a guy that really wants his talent and the families to be happy. Vince McMahon is the same as well, but his mentality is go, go, go. That's how he is. He's incredible. He works out at 3 a.m. He's a machine and expects everyone else around him to be a machine. Everybody in WWE is capable of that, but it's nice to get a little bit of a step back. He says nice to take a step back, but sorry, I was rolling there. Oh, did your audio go out, Ben?
Mike, Allison.
There we are.
There you go.
He's back.
I'm back now, guys. Slight technical difficulty. Something which is really interesting about what Corbin said then was that he was praising Triple H and said, he's the guy that really wants his talent and the families to be happy. And then you realize, shit, that sounds like I'm bearing Vince, so I need to, go and praise Vince a bit now. But it is true. Vince, wanted everybody to work really, really hard. And, there's something, to say about that in terms of, it makes talent, be the best version of themselves. But it also, it results in burnout and sometimes, talent not being as happy as perhaps they are now under Triple H. But one complaint about, Monday Night Raw specifically, well, actually, no, because Friday Night SmackDown, Bray Wyatt too. Since Triple H has taken over, is that everything feels a bit slow. Like they're really, really giving time for storylines to develop and move on a bit. And that was something which it's got story continuity to it. But unlike AEW Dynamite, for example, which everything moves really, really fast, Raw's now moving really, really slow. And I mean, perhaps you could say that it has the opposite problem to Dynamite in the fact that the stories are moving a bit too slow. But yeah, what do you think about this, Anthony?
I think part of it is, especially now, is that there wasn't a December pay-per-view. Yeah. So they have a really long time between the last pay-per-view they had, Survivor Series, and the Rumble. So I expected a slow build. I personally don't have a major issue with long-term storytelling, but I understand the attention span of a lot of people. Yeah. They don't have the time for it. There's too many things going on. I get the instant gratification. Raw, I think, there are people that Hunter brought back, I wouldn't have brought back. So I think that's part of it too. It's some people are not panning out on both Raw and SmackDown. So I think there's a lot that goes into that. When you try to book stuff, if it doesn't pan out, you start hitting panic mode a little bit.
Yeah, no, it is absolutely true. Like at first, like again, I'm gonna relay this to the AEW Dynamite issues as well, in the fact of it almost felt like the best thing about Raw when Triple H took over was the debuts, and that was an issue which you were saying about AEW Dynamite for a long time. And even though Raw and Dynamite are two very, very, very different shows, I think in the long term, I feel like Raw's slow-paced booking is going to pay off big. But in the short term, the viewership's not currently doing well. That is a fact. But it's like Corbin said here. Triple H believes it's a marathon, not a sprint, which is, it's quite frankly what a lot of fans have been saying that they want. They're saying, we want long-term storytelling. We want long-term booking. So then if, they don't have the attention span to then watch that, it's like, well, you're the one who asked for it. And then on the flip side of that, AEW Dynamite's just been going, full force, giving people dream matches without, there's not always a lot of storytelling. There obviously is huge exceptions to that. Like, we spoke about yesterday, the Hangman stuff, all that. But the really, the interesting thing is AEW, is probably has the opposite issue where it's just going so fast and viewers still aren't, the viewership's still dropping for that. So it's a difficult one. What do you think, Clark?
It feels like so I love long-term stories and the big payoff. That's like one of my favorite things in wrestling. Like, is a really well booked, really long tail. Now, I also think Raw in particular, being a 3-hour show, it's really, really hard to tell long stories always. And that middle hour, sometimes I feel like it's lost in the shuffle, and there's room for a quick week-to-week payoff and things like that. And I do think they made the effort to do that by paying off the Miz and Loomis ladder match on Raw. But then because of the other stuff, twofold here, because we talked about the debuts, that idea of that happening got overshadowed by, it wasn't the main event. It was in the middle of the second hour of the show. And it got overshadowed by Bronson Reed's re-debut. Essentially, right? And so it's funny, that specific example, I'm like, it seemed like they're kind of trying to do what we're saying, right? Like maybe just a little bit more, something to stay on week to week, but then they somehow did it in a way where we didn't even really notice. I had to think about it after and be like, actually, Anthony, that was really cool. They told that story for a month on Raw, but they paid it off in the middle of the second hour. And that to me is kind of baffling. And the main event was a great main event that night. I believe it was the women's #1 contender match.
Yeah, I think so.
Which was deserving for sure. But I mean, how about have it go first, maybe, or even to end the second hour?
Usos versus Kevin.
That's right. It was Seth. That's right. I forgot it was that night. I think the next week was the women's #1 contender match, right? That was the Asuka and.
The last week was the debut,
right?
If you're counting the street fight. I can't remember what the main event of the street fight was.
Either way, the net of it is, I think that it's a tough situation with the 3 hours on Raw. I don't think that means it's not doable, but there's always that like new toy thing. So Triple H takes
Kevin
over
and Jimmy Uso.
and we got the new toy excitement of like, oh my gosh, look, we get all these debuts. It's Triple H. It's going to be totally different. And then, the honeymoon phase isn't over. Obviously, I still think he's doing an amazing job, and I'm more intrigued than I may have been otherwise. But to an extent, it does feel a little bit like just a logical ending to the honeymoon phase of like, oh, we have Triple H instead of Vince at WWE.
It absolutely is true.
Everything's different. Yeah,
you raised a really, really good point there about the second hour. And this is something which, since Triple H has come in, it's been, and I say this, over the last couple of years, Vince at times put a real emphasis on the second hour of Raw. But it's something which Triple H is now doing as well, because it's a 3-hour show. And they're trying to, the second hours, it dips quite heavily a lot of the time, which is why they put this emphasis on the second hour. Gargano's debut, remember, was right at the end of the second hour, which was why I thought nothing was going to happen. So I went.
That's why he wasn't in the room. That was great.
And I'm never, Clark and Anthony were on a Zoom with me when we were watching that. I went to the toilet, missed it, come back, they tell me Gargano's return, I missed it all. But
he didn't believe us.
No, that was the funniest part. Is at first he goes, "No, seriously, guys, what happened?"
We're like, play back the tape.
We're like, "No, rewind it. Johnny Gargano just returned."
I honestly still can't.
I'll never forget. You go, "How did he do it?" I go, "They just hit his music." Like that's all.
And the other part of that was you not only missed Johnny, you also missed Candace. So the running joke is anytime there's a Gargano, you miss it.
I'm surprised I didn't miss Dexter Loomis as well, considering he's part of their Way family.
Honorary Gargano, is that where we're going with?
Yeah. That's the
Sami Zayn of the Garganos.
Yes.
But that's the emphasis they're putting on the second hour. And it's ridiculously hard to book a 3-hour show. It really is. And part of me thinks that Triple H actually found the 3-hour show slightly easier than the SmackDown when he first took over, because there was a lot of hiccups with SmackDown when he first took charge. But then after a few weeks, all that ironed out and it became a really, really top show like it is now. And of course, like we'll get into later, won our weekly show of the year. But Raw, it's in a really difficult position. What are your thoughts, Coby, on the Raw being 3 hours and Triple H is taking a slow approach to the booking?
I mean, well, see, this is the thing. Paul Heyman got fired for exactly what he was doing. Paul Heyman was executive producer from September 2019, something like that, and then lost it in, I want to say like June or July of COVID. Yeah, he didn't last a year because his idea was, okay, we're going to take the time, we're going to build the characters, we're going to build the people. And that instant, why aren't the ratings going up? This guy's failing. That was the Vince idea of, okay, well, you're not paying off because you're going for the end game, not this game, not the current game. And I think now that, I guess that hammer, if you want to call it, that hammer of Vince saying it's got to happen now, that hammer, it's gone. So Triple H has the ability to just go with the slow, okay, let's build it, let's blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, the 3 hours is hellish, regardless.
Booking a 3-hour show is very difficult for them. And, I know fans don't want the third hour, want to go back to 2. It's never going to happen financially with the sponsors, the amount of money they're making, they're not going. So they're stuck with the 3 hours. The debuts, it's almost a Band-Aid. It's a Band-Aid pop. If you don't have long-term plans for these people, and it just won't pay off. It's the attention span it keeps coming back to. The fans, if you want long-term storytelling, you got to be willing to stay for the ride. But I think you can kind of find a happy medium between long-term storytelling and more of an instant gratification that AEW does, kind of a happy medium that might pay off.
Yeah.
But it's not an enviable position that Hunter's in right now.
No, not at all.
Booking 7 hours of TV a week?
I will say too, to your point, Anthony, and I didn't really think of it this way either. If you look at the Raw roster, even for a 3-hour show, they have a lot of really good technical wrestlers on that roster. AJ Styles, Finn Balor, guys that, bell to bell are going to go 25 minutes a night if they wanted to, and it's going to be outstanding. Even on the women's side, right? You have Becky Lynch, Belair, Bayley for those type of matches. But you don't see a lot of, right? You get Sami Zayn on the microphone in backstage segments every week on SmackDown. Same with Roman. Honestly, the Usos, I think, are doing their best promo work. And it's not a knock on the performers on the Raw side, but there's, outside of maybe Kevin Owens, I would say there's not somebody you can go out with a microphone and go, we need you to entertain us here for 10 minutes on short notice or on a short-term type of storytelling.
I'd say Seth.
I was going to say
maybe Seth. Yeah, sorry.
Seth.
Yeah. But Seth would be the other one too. Becky as well.
Becky, yeah.
But even then, it just by comparison,
JBL
rosters, right? It would be different. It'd be different if Raw was also 2 hours. I would think it wouldn't be as drastic. But and it's ironic to me too, because right, we're all lifelong fans basically, and you go back and look at the Ruthless Aggression era, the SmackDown 6, that was the wrestling show. It was the technical wrestling show. Raw was the entertainment show.
It was SmackDown was always the show that was looked down upon too, and they would always overperform. Now, Clark, you probably remember this when Nitro was 3 hours. You know, the first hour was like dedicated to the cruiserweights.
Yep.
And part of me wonders, would that be a bad idea for them to dedicate the first hour to whether mid-card or women's wrestling or cruiserweights or whatever, and hype up and have the 9 to 11 be the, flagship.
Yeah, maybe even like a guaranteed United States title match in the first hour.
That's what I'm saying. Like, and hyping up, I don't want to say the main show because it is the same show, but you know what I mean? Those 2 hours to try to at least try it and see if you could get somewhere with it.
Yeah, I feel like part of the issue is right? Is that you guys were saying earlier about, the happy medium between really, fast-paced stories and all that compared to, the slow-burning stories. And I feel like Triple H's current mentality to that is by having good technical matches on Raw. However, on a 3-hour show, it's not even I don't think. Statistically, good wrestling with no, unless there's a big story behind it, it doesn't draw. It just good wrestling.
It only gets you so far.
Yeah, it truly does, and it's not drawing, and it's just people even getting fed up of it. And it's like, this is what people wanted, but when you get too much of what you want, you don't want it. And I honestly feel like Paul Heyman actually, maybe it's just me looking back, right? Maybe at the time I wouldn't have thought this, but at the time I thought Paul Heyman had found the mix perfectly because it felt like something big happened every single Raw, like some big angle. But also at the same time, they were doing the storyline slowly, until Vince kept getting involved and pushing back or whatever. But as a whole, every week, something big happened while they were also in the background building a story slowly. And I feel like what Triple H is currently missing on Raw is just a big angle each week.
And to your point about Heyman, I think Heyman on his career, even dating back to ECW, has had an incredible knack for, he'll do like a big reveal or the big next step pivot in a storyline, but then he'll also give you a cliffhanger, something that you want to still know about. And he found that we said happy medium, but that magic of you got enough that you're like, oh, it's worth watching. I'm not just being strung along, right? It's not cliffhanger. But then he would give you something, gosh, I got to see the next one.
Yeah.
Right? Like right away, there's one more thing before you go, almost like, not necessarily that it ended the show every time, but there was always something where you go, oh man, they're going to pay that off next week, for lack of a better term.
Well, that's smart weekly episodic building to make you want to see that next show.
You can even see in the way that the bloodline is operated since Heyman's been in charge. You can see his fingerprints on a lot of the things they've done as far as advancing that storyline. Obviously not everything's perfect, but I think we can all agree that's been as good as of a long-term story as there's been.
Absolutely.
And then they added Sami Zayn, right? I would have said it was really good before they added Sami. Then they added Sami. I mean, it's
a different mix.
Yeah, and it's magic for sure. But yeah, I really like what you said about Heyman there. I agree. I think he found that happy medium. Even dating back to right before the pandemic, I actually thought the show was kind of rolling there.
I was loving it before the pandemic.
I really was.
Truly, I'd never been like so into Raw in years and years. Actually, I think ever, if I'm being completely honest, since I started watching. Because when I started watching, it was during all the celebrity guest host stuff. So I was never a Raw guy. I was always a SmackDown guy.
Honestly, thank you for still being a fan, Ben.
I was always, honestly, I was just into SmackDown. Like, that was what really got my interest. I had barely any interest in Raw. But what I want to now go into, and this wasn't, we weren't planning to go in this order, but it's just naturally gone in this way, is that of course today the Wrestling Republic episodic weekly show awards will come out in just a couple of hours. So we'll break it here right now. Dynamite did not win. SmackDown did. And yeah, SmackDown won by 2 votes, I believe. I think it was 8 votes to SmackDown.
8 to 6.
Yeah,
8 to 6 to 2 to 1.
And we accidentally have, I voted. Some people might be surprised by this, considering, a lot of what I criticize AW. But I voted AW Dynamite because I truly thought that SmackDown wasn't always consistent throughout the year, and just especially when Triple H took over. Actually, I thought every week was a little bit disappointing for the first few weeks, and then once they got the ball rolling, the last couple of months has been fantastic. But outside of the bloodline stuff, the first half of the year, first 8 months of the year, well, not even 8 months, first 9 months of the year outside of the Bloodline stuff, I wasn't really into SmackDown that much. Whereas AEW Dynamite, yes, there's some stuff which is hit and miss, but I still thought that segment per segment, I was more invested in it than I was in SmackDown for the majority of this year. Clark, why did you vote Dynamite?
I was between SmackDown and Dynamite. And it's funny because for promotion of the year, I actually voted WWE, and a lot of people would expect me to vote AEW, and I tried really hard to justify it in my head and just couldn't quite do it. On SmackDown and Dynamite, though, I could. I thought Dynamite, for if you go across the board on the year, it's hard. Recency bias is so easy when you're voting on yearly awards like this. I made a joke out of it the week we were voting. I think I said recency bias 500 times, maybe. Even just because it's so easy to do. But if you look at the Dynamites in the beginning of the year, as much as we know now what happened with CM Punk, gosh, that work was excellent with him and MJF. And then the work was outstanding again. I even thought the Hangman Page story was fun. Leading to the Double or Nothing pay-per-view. And I thought that work was commendable. And then there was a lull around All Out for sure. There was a dip. But for coming out of that dip, I thought straight consistency week to week, it just had just a tiny nudge over SmackDown because of the same sentiments you had about the Triple H when he first took over on SmackDown. It was a little like convoluted. It just felt off. Yeah. Like just not like they weren't firing on all cylinders. And I think that sort of lasted just enough longer than the lull during the Brawl Out press conference. And around that time, I thought that the lull that SmackDown had, or the slump, if you want to call it that, lasted just enough longer that I voted Dynamite. But I do love both shows in all seriousness. I mean, I slightly not lean AEW, but I really, really like AEW a bunch. I'm probably more positive about AEW than some of the other guys when we're all talking, right? And
I mean, the joke is that you and Soul lean AEW.
Yeah, we're the AEW guys.
The other three of us, me, Anthony, and Kobe, we all lean more WWE.
Yeah, and I mean, but again, I say it once, say it again. Grew up on WWE, so I don't, right? Like now. Am I a little biased? Of course, like, occasionally, like if you prefer something, but I went Dynamite just because I thought consistency wise, week to week, it was the most entertaining of the shows for sure. You knew what you were going to get in a positive way, not in the sense that it was predictable, but in the sense that you knew you were going to get at least a few good matches, some advancement storyline wise, maybe too fast, but you're going to at least get two really, really, really rock solid, entertaining wrestling matches, high quality. And then you're getting the advancement and all that. I mean, that roster is loaded, right? I think all three of you guys would admit that too, right?
It is. I think
it's loaded.
That's also its biggest
issue. It is loaded. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Anthony, then you voted for SmackDown over AEW, which of course won the award. So what was your reasoning for voting SmackDown?
I mean, for me, and Clark touched on it a little bit, the Bloodline storyline for me, I'm interested in it. I think the Honorary Ooze segment is probably one of the best segments seen in years. Sammy added a lot to that. As far as Dynamite, for 3 months, the biggest draw for Dynamite, MJF wasn't even on the program. So that impacted it a little bit for me. I could have went either way. I think both shows do a nice job of what they do. But for me, I tend to lean more towards the long-term storytelling. So when I was making a choice between the two, because I think those were the two that you were pretty much going up against. Impact's actually a really good show too, that I don't think a lot of people give credit to. But I ultimately went SmackDown for this.
Yeah. I mean, Impact only had one vote actually on the thing, but I mean, I don't know what it is about Impact. There's just something about it. I can never get into it.
I think it's such a damaged brand from over the years, but honestly, and I do watch it weekly, it's a better show than what people are the perception is. I think it's a better show now than it's been probably in a few years at least.
I don't watch it regularly, but I do pay attention, and I will say, like, it's I think it's some of the best writing in wrestling, like creative wise. Like you said on the damaged brand thing, I think that's hard to overcome. And then so like the biggest one for me too is yes, they have a crowd now, but they're not touring. They're in this, it's a studio show. And that's what held that one back from being considered against SmackDown or Dynamite for me, is like the end of the day, they're not filling arenas.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah,
those ones are. And that's not a knock on the creative. I think the performers are amazing. And I think the creative's amazing, but that, right, to your point, that's why it made it hard to vote for them.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, I think the funny part is the X division for them, even despite everything, it's typically a pretty good division. And I think Josh Alexander pretty much is carrying that company on his back and doesn't get a lot of credit.
Oh, absolutely.
I think, his match with Kazarian at Overdrive, I think it was, Overdrive, was a phenomenal match. But I don't think it really got much traction, but it was a really good match.
Oh, I think bell to bell, Josh Alexander might be the most underrated guy in wrestling. Like
easily,
he can go with, and even then too, like cross
most underrated, 100%.
Not to like start a Forbidden Door thing, but like he never gets really brought up in that like dream matchup, a cross promotional thing. Like, dude, how good would he have? Anybody in New Japan, anybody on SmackDown or Raw, and anybody in AEW.
He's been name dropped on AEW Dynamite.
There's just so many. Yep.
The funny part is when Ethan Page jumped to AEW, the perception was, Josh Alexander's career is done because his tag partner left. And
AEW thought Josh would be coming with him afterwards. So they thought once his contract had run down, Josh would be joining him.
But he carved out a niche for himself with the X division, rebuilt that, cashed in, took their world title, and is kind of reestablishing that. He's having a hell of a career right now.
Oh yeah, certainly is. What are your thoughts, Coby? Why did you vote SmackDown over Dynamite?
I mean, I think there isn't something that hasn't been said already. The bloodline is the biggest thing in wrestling right now. They are the most consistent, the most entertaining. When Roman Reigns is being advertised for a product, you are going to watch. I mean, at least you should, unless you're a Roman hater. This is the thing. We talked about AEW yesterday, and we talked about the drawing factor of AEW Dynamite. Good wrestling matches is good, but is that a drawing factor? I mean, it's clear it's drawing to their niche, it's drawing to their audience. For someone who like this is my example again, Dax Harwood, Bryan Danielson. I had no doubt it was going to be a good, entertaining, fun match. No, you didn't
like it.
I didn't even watch it.
I know.
I didn't even watch it, but I had no doubt it was going to be
really liked it.
Entertaining match. Well, I didn't watch it, so I can't have an opinion on it.
I just want to point out, I know it said that I lean more towards WWE. I watched them both. I criticize them both as evenly as I can. Mark can verify that. I am more willing to give AEW a break than Coby is.
I'll say this too, Coby. Would you prefer they have bad wrestling matches?
I'd prefer to be invested.
If good wrestling doesn't draw, would you prefer that they have bad matches?
I'd prefer to be invested.
I get that. No, I know what you mean. Totally. And I agree on that. There needs to be storytelling, but like, I don't think complaining about like really, really like entertaining wrestling. You can tell a story bell to bell too. You don't necessarily have to always do it on the microphone. And so I don't want it to get too black and white on a good wrestling match isn't something that draws. That doesn't make sense, right? Good wrestling is what if you're a fan of wrestling, is what you'd want to watch by pure logic, right?
Yeah.
Now good wrestling for no reason, of course, that is worthy of a complaint. Yeah. Maybe from a storytelling perspective, but it doesn't make it still not good wrestling.
It doesn't draw though. That is the issue. That
but it doesn't draw on its own. It doesn't draw on its own.
When they're just having technical, really good technical matches, it's not drawing. And back to what Anthony said then, I actually only just realized something. It's basically right. So out of all of us, right? You're probably the most central. I'm then probably slightly more towards WWE. Clark slightly more towards AEW. Then you got Soul AW, Kobe WWE. That's
I'm
basically
in the middle.
I'm in the middle. He's moving. You're moving towards the middle. I'll give Kobe some credit, by the way. I'm not trying to overbury my boy Kobe.
I've been in the middle.
He's been moving closer to the middle. Don't let him tell you that.
I've been in the middle.
Right, let's move on to the next awards now, which we're
like I did want to finish my point because I did.
Let him go.
Like, that's the thing. Like I said, Bryan Danielson and Dax Harwood, of course, I had no doubt was going to be a good match. Is that enough to make me want to watch? And I don't think it is. That's the thing. Like Anthony brought up MJF missing. You can bring up SmackDown not having Roman Reigns for a lot of post-Mania, which is still puzzling because you legitimately gave them both world titles, and then you really don't feature them a lot. You make the Usos the main person of the brand. But I think at the end of the day, week to week, SmackDown was giving you something to always want to watch the next week.
Yeah. I mean, in fairness to SmackDown.
I like that. On the get you to next week, Kobe, that makes a lot of sense too. I hear where you're coming from there. That's why I was sorry not to cut you off, Ben, but just yeah.
Yeah, no. But yeah, in fairness as well to them, the reason that Roman was off TV was a Roman thing. Roman, his contract was coming up. He was, in fairness to, Vince at the time or whatever, it really was out of WWE's hands in that situation. Now let's move on to the Tag Awards, right? And of course, Toxic Attraction won the women's Tag Award, just about beating Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter. And I don't really think many people really had any complaint with that. I think universally, it was agreed upon, but at least somewhat agreed upon. But the one which wasn't.
I mean, my biggest complaint was why is Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter getting votes because of the fact that they were just two people who are prominent figures in the division as a team.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no women's tag division in AEW.
Oh, I did vote for them.
I know you did. I'm just saying, yes, they did a handful of tag matches, but as a tag team, I wouldn't say they were the tag team of the year.
No, I agree on that.
That's the puzzling part that they got. I mean, even then, we were making the nominees. Allison was like, "Oh, I don't want Damage Control to win because they were a thing for 6 months, and I'd rather have Black Desire win." And then it's just like, and then we were all saying who because we don't watch. That much wrestling.
I mean, I still think that Black Desire was where my original vote went, right? But if we're talking about mainstream, the two was between Toxic Attraction and Jamie Hayter and Britt Baker. I completely agree with you, Kobe, and I don't want to get into this one too much because we're really running low on time again.
Yeah.
But Clark, do you want to quickly just say then why you did vote for Jamie and Britt?
I voted because I thought, even as great as Toxic Attraction was this year, there's no women's tag division in AEW. They would logically be the belt holders when they were paired together throughout the year through the All Out, and the way they told the story, tagging together consistently on Wednesday nights. They did wrestle as a tag team in a ton of matches, and the way they told the story and built Jamie Hayter without actually having to fully ruin the friendship. They teased it, and then they pulled the rug, and people complained, and now everyone's like, no, but still it's great. And the way that they worked as a unit, I thought for star power, somehow Dr. Britt Baker still feels as important as she did last year carrying the women's belt, and her partner is carrying the women's belt, the world belt in AEW. And it's still the continuity between the two as a team was enough for me to give them the vote. And that's why I gave them the nod. It was more for me almost, this isn't exactly the criteria for the award, but I thought they were the two best individual performers of the list. And it was that made it also harder for me not to vote for them because they did tag so often.
Yeah.
Right. They're both of their stars raised. That's true. And I thought that was enough for me to give them the nod.
No, fair enough. That is a good point now. And also, I know a few people wanted Diona and Chelsea to sorry, what's her name in? It is. Wait, is it? I always forget her flipping name. It is Chelsea.
Chelsea Green. Yes.
No, but it's still
married to Matt Cardona.
No, but in Impact, I mean that is.
Yeah,
Chelsea Green. What's it in WWE?
What?
It was always Chelsea Green.
She was Chelsea Green. She just
really.
That's her real name.
Yes.
I mean, she was supposed to be victorious.
I think it's a real
right.
name.
And then it never came out.
What was her old impact
Laurel
name
Van
again?
Ness.
Yeah, that's it.
When her original
that was what I was
was
trying to
Laurel
remember.
Van Ness.
And then she was also like the hot mess is the gimmick, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's the whole.
Well, it was the bride who got screwed.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Now, the other award, which was a lot more controversial, was that FTR won the Tag Team of the Year award, and the Men's Division Tag Team of the Year award. And a lot of people, his response to that is, what about the Usos? They became the unified tag team champions. They've been carrying SmackDown on their backs. So, I voted Usos. I think, Kobe, did you vote Usos too?
Yeah.
And Anthony, what did you vote? Usos. So, Clark is the only one here
FTR.
who did not. You voted for the winners who were FTR. Why?
To be totally honest, I'll wholeheartedly admit it was down to the Usos and FTR for me. I actually clicked both. And it's funny, I was texting Anthony during me voting. I love that you're nodding because you're like, oh, okay. We had a conversation about it.
Yes, we had this conversation.
I had them both clicked at different times. The only knock on FTR that I could think of is that they didn't carry the AEW world titles.
And weren't on TV much.
And they had every other one though. But every single match that they had this year, and especially as often as I had reviewed their matches, was incredible. And they're one of the few examples of they told stories that led to those matches.
That's
all
true.
year.
Yes.
All year long, not just the double dog collar, not just the first encounter or the other encounter with the Briscoes. Every single time they went and delivered, and then they carried all the other belts to the extent that, as much as I love the Acclaimed, I view them as the belt carrying tag team in AEW, even though it's not technically the AEW belts. Yeah. That's just how I view them. And as great as the Usos were this year, and they really were awesome. I think the Usos have been in a position where they've been around and they've been tag of the year so long. Outside of the Street Profits match at Money in the Bank, I couldn't off the top of my head remember an Usos match that was like, oh my gosh, I've never seen them on firing on that level. Not that they didn't have a great year consistency wise, but bell to bell by comparison to what FTR was able to deliver in the ring, there's a lot of predictability in my eyes to what happened with the Usos this year, especially with what's going on with Reigns. And that was my final straw on what separated them. And that's why I went FTR.
That is a really good point there. At the end of the day, the Usos start, like you knew that they would win pretty much all their matches. Whereas FTR, you didn't know that. And also another thing is, yes, FTR have not been, shown on AEW TV too much throughout the year. As much as, they should have been shown, to be honest with you, because they are, in my opinion, they are the best tag team in the world, right? But the thing with FTR is they've also wrestled matches in Japan and stuff and other stuff as well, which maybe people aren't taking into account. So in fairness, like there is a huge argument for them winning. And also, despite the opening I did, it was between them for me too, right? But the Usos in the end took it for me purely because, they brought the titles together for the first time since 2016. And of course, the Bloodline, they had to really, they had to carry SmackDown. We touched upon this earlier. When Roman was away, they had to carry SmackDown. They had to, put, as the Bloodline, put everything on their backs. And they did it. They did really, really well. And they made the belts feel really important as well, which is a good thing. But like you did say, it was predictable at times, a lot of their matches. So I absolutely do get that. Now, the last thing which I want to talk about today, right, is yesterday during the show, actually, a story broke. And basically, WWE started to release a trailer on YouTube, and then it ended up being posted on Twitter as well, that they're announcing the Mountain Dew Pitch Black match. Now, what is that match? Quite frankly, we have no idea. In the off the top of your head, when you hear about that, you think instantly Bray Wyatt, right? And throughout the trailer, there's a few hints, to Bray Wyatt slightly, but one thing which is interesting is there's a silhouette in the trailer which really, really looks like Edge standing on the stage. So yeah.
Well, like, see that, like, that's reminiscent of his last few vignette parts in the summer when everyone was, it was Money in the Bank. We saw the first one, and it was just like, oh, this is everyone. There was people saying the Fiend, and then there was like Cena stuff. I wrote a piece there was Randy.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Of course you did.
Yes.
Of course you did.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. The silhouette is reminiscent because Edge was in that, like, the tall black trench coat. He was like, and he was even using that font of, I guess, the Fiend font.
What was the font?
I think he was using that font in the summer as well.
I will say that.
But then again, like,
I'm
that's
almost equally curious.
We've seen the rumors.
Pitch Black, the new Mountain Dew flavor, though. Do we know that too?
Yeah.
Is it good?
I don't fucking know.
I have to know.
Yeah.
Nobody.
We're gonna have to try it now.
Has anyone tried it? Yeah, I gotta get. I'll get one for tomorrow if I can find one. Are they out yet?
I don't know.
I have
no idea.
I just put that together.
Like 2 years behind in the UK, so
yeah. But I just put that together in my head. I was like, no, it's not just Mountain Dew sponsored the match. There's a new flavor.
Yeah. But I mean, it could be, Edge versus Finn Balor is rumored for the event, so maybe it could be that. But then there's also there's rumors of another. I'm not going to get into it because we don't really get into spoilers here. But there's rumors that they're going to be in another different match type to a Pitch Black match.
What about the
apparently,
the rumors were that was with LA Knight and then the Hell in a Cell was Finn Balor Edge.
No spoilers.
Yeah,
there's no spoilers.
No, I know. I was just making it clear to the audience that wasn't for you, Kobe. Don't worry. You're on the right track. We're on the same page.
Unfortunately, everyone's reported it at this point, so we might as well. Yeah, Anthony?
Apparently, the Pitch Black Mountain Dew made its debut in 2004 during the Halloween season. And then bumped up in 2011 and 2015, and then apparently 2016 to 2022, the flavor changed. Apparently, it was originally black grape. Now it's citrus and dark fruit.
Oh, I'm a grape
guy.
That
does sound good.
Apparently, it's a limited edition Mountain Dew, or at least it was.
Grape's my favorite flavor of anything.
So that's the answer to your question.
Wait, so it's finished in 2022? They're doing the Pitch Black match as soon as they finish.
It's saying in 2023,
Pitch
Black along with it'll get a limited run starting January 1st. So maybe that's probably why they're doing it. But apparently, it originally started as a Halloween season.
It's like the McRib. They bring it back every now and again.
Yeah. So apparently January 1st, which would tie into whatever the hell this thing is.
No, it absolutely would do. And I mean, when I first hear this, part of me is thinking, are they going to do basically Lights Out? Well, NXT's version of Lights Out. Is that what the match is going to be? I mean,
whatever they do, I'm just hoping it's not the zombie tie-in shit stuff that they did before. That's all I'm hoping. It's not something. I'm just hoping it's not that or a mix between the mimosa thing that AEW did. I'm just hoping it's not mimosa.
Do you remember Batista tweeted though? Oh, mimosa may. By the way, if it's a bad amount do I actually might be stoked about that. But do you remember the Batista like tweeted about the zombie thing because I think he was in that movie.
He's in the movie, it's on Netflix.
A bunch of people like tweeted at him like it was the worst match I've ever seen. He's like, guys, I wasn't even there. It was just like I
mean, like that's the thing. You can think about what could we expect, and like there was the Lights Out match between Wendy Chu and Tiffany Stratton. Actually, a fun match. I enjoyed it when I saw it. And then there was the World of Darkness, which is a lot more, I'd say, Wyatt Spooky-esque.
Wyatt-y.
Which was Isla Dawn and Meiko Satomura, which it was focused on Isla Dawn bringing Meiko to her realm.
I think you showed me that actually on UK, didn't you?
We might have watched.
I think you had me watch that.
I don't know. All I know is UK reviews fell apart. I know that part. I know as far as that, but I mean, both matches were fun. I don't know what you can do unless it's a special version of a Hell in a Cell. I dig that.
I mean, the thing is, at what point has Edge now kind of become like the Undertaker in the sense of the return vignettes?
Yeah.
Like I know he's the seasoned veteran now. Like, I mean, in theory, he's the longest tenured one. I know there was the gap there, but he's the longest tenured one. He's the only one active on that roster that was there during the Attitude Era. I mean, realistically, he's the only active one left.
Is the only active wrestler,
in WWE.
In
Technically,
WWE.
Christians in
AEW,
but as far as WWE,
Sting.
I mean,
technically active too,
but like as far as the WWE
well.
guy, so I get why they're doing it. I'm assuming it's Finn. I don't know if it's a new version of the cell that they're just going to do, not saying not to say this is going to be the Ready to Rumble triple tier cage, but
I was gonna say, Anthony, what if it's like Monsters Ball in Impact where they have to stay in?
I'd be okay with. I mean,
that could be intriguing.
I think you'd get into a lot of trouble then.
Well, no,
but isn't Monsters Ball they have to stay in a dark room?
Yeah, that's what they've recently brought back. Is like.
I just thought of that.
They've recently brought it back, but that's the thing is, would you theoretically
stay overnight in a pitch black room with no food or water, right?
You know what it could be? It could be.
That wouldn't be bad.
You know what it could be? A new version of the Boiler Room Brawl.
Oh my gosh, the Boiler Room Brawl. Have you never seen that match, Allison and Coby? I know on the age gap here.
I've seen highlights.
SummerSlam '96, right? I want to say.
Yeah, and that's the original one. Yeah, I think so.
Undertaker, Mankind.
It was 96. Yeah.
Yeah, because I believe it's the same card that it was Michaels Vader is the main event. It's the co-main.
It was at SummerSlam. Yes.
Yes. Mm-hmm. That's one of my all-time favorite matches, and the concept I loved with just the opening shot of Mick Foley, Mankind.
And they did a few of them with Foley. Foley did a couple of them over the years. But I mean.
Yeah, we watched the one he had with Santa the other day.
No, it was him versus 3 Santas handicap match. Dude.
But I mean, that's a match type that, a large portion of the audience, the younger audience, has never seen. So you could bring it back with a twist. Edge would make sense to do that. And I think that him and Finn probably could pull that off.
I think so. I
think Pitch Black could work, but I'm just hoping it's not them in a dark room and you see nothing.
I hope they just don't turn the light off. Like a weird blue light. That would just bug me.
Yeah, or night vision. The whole match is in night vision. Like, I mean, I'm just saying.
Please no.
This could be interesting, or it could be a complete disaster. It's one or the other.
And I think if it is what they do in NXT with the lights out, to be fair,
right.
So it could end up being that, and I really hope it is. And I prefer the idea. I even prefer the idea of like what Impact. What you said about the Monsters Ball.
Yeah,
where, they have to stay in a pitch black room for
overnight. Yeah.
PCO
they did a number this year. They did Callahan and Moose too.
Yeah, they did
Callahan Moose.
They did a number Jordan Grace and Alley Catch.
That's right. It was PC.
Gosh,
they've done a number this year where they kind of focused on that's the angle they're going with. They're in the black room, and then they show them coming out. And
when that could fit Wyatt, like a welcome to my world.
And he was just laughing because it was like, I'm in insane asylum type thing. But that's the thing is the biggest thing I hate. I saw this and I've seen the rumors, and yes, if you don't want the spoilers, skip later on, or I just stop watching now. I'm kidding.
No, don't do any major spoilers.
I'm just saying the rumors were that this is either with Edge and Balor or this is LA Knight and Bray Wyatt. The fact that this is rumored for Bray Wyatt, and the fact that we now are seeing it as Mountain Dew's pitch black. I genuinely hate that for Bray Wyatt. If his first match back, if you're not televised match back, being a Mountain Dew pitch black match, that I hate. I hate for Bray Wyatt.
I mean, Cobe, you and I have talked about this, and I've talked to Clark and Ben about this too. I'm a big fan of LA Knight. And I get they're pushing Bray. I just wish they wouldn't be burying LA Knight in order to push Bray.
Yeah,
for me, Edge, but the mic work, he's phenomenal. He can eventually be a manager, he can be a commentator. There's a number of things. I wouldn't want to damage any brand.
And we're too old too.
Yeah, I mean, to me, Edge and Finn. I think it would be a better match.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. I think they could pull off a better match, regardless of whatever this is. That we have no idea what it is. But
I'm going to be honest to you, right? If it is what a Monster Ball type thing, right, where they or something like that, right? I would actually, to be honest, rather, even though the Mountain Dew's in front of it, whatever. I still would prefer it to be LA Knight and Bray Wyatt, and then I do prefer the idea of a Hell in a Cell between Finn Balor and Edge. I feel like that's the perfect ending to their storyline. I believe that would suit it a lot better.
There's a mixed tag match on the line as well. Like we theoretically at WrestleMania, I don't want to see that. Theoretically at WrestleMania, it's either Edge and Beth versus Finn and maybe Rhea, or it's just going to be Rhea Beth at the end of the day. Because I think that match, there was a lot. I don't want to say there was a lot to be desired from Extreme Rules, but coming out of the match, you can tell that was the direction, and that was the one part I kind of hated. Is this was the I Quit match? Theoretically, it was a stipulation to have a stipulation because now we know. Well, we know Edge wants revenge because they pretty much concussed Beth or did something to Beth, however you want to say it. They didn't end the rivalry with that, and that does bug me.
No, it's true. They could do Rhea versus Beth at the Rumble. To be honest,
well, I think that's a Mania match because because that's the thing is we're gonna continue going with rumors. I'm kidding, Rhea is being built up so I don't want to say so badly, but Rhea is being built up, and I don't think Rhea and Belair is the Mania match. I think we already know it's kind of Charlotte Belair.
I think it's Rhea and Ray.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'd be interested in Rhea and Ripley, and
I'd be all over that too.
I'd be interested in Ray versus
Rhea and Angie.
Ray. I think the move is Rhea Beth Phoenix because you don't want her to get lost in the shuffle if you're trying to build her up.
Cobe, I get what you're saying. I just don't think the way they're building the Rey Mysterio Dominic thing, and it's very reminiscent to the Undertaker Kane WrestleMania 14. I won't fight my brother. I won't fight my son. Clark knows what I'm talking about. Like I think they're going for that. That's why I don't think.
But I won't fight him.
I don't think we're getting Rhea Beth at Mania because I think Rhea is going to be involved somehow with the Rey Dominic thing. I think a Rhea versus Beth at the Rumble is a stronger possibility than Mania, I think. Yeah. Or they're going to do Edge, Beth, Rey against some combination of maybe Dominic, Finn, and Rhea at Mania. I don't know, but I just don't see Rhea Beth at Mania. I could be wrong, but I just don't see it.
I often praise long-term storytelling. I mentioned it earlier, right? But I'm sorry, Finn Balor and the rivalry between the Judgment Day and Edge does not need to last a year, and that's what it pretty much would be if it runs until Mania. Honestly, I'm pretty sick of it now. I think they blow it off at the Rumble. You are right. They need to tie up the Beth and Rhea thing, but just do it at the Rumble. And I think
get it over with.
I mean, the only one that's going to lose out with this whole thing is, Damian Priest is not involved in anything.
Yeah.
So, true. Literally, he's the only one in the group that's literally not involved with anybody.
They did the 1 6-man tag like a month ago or whatever, and the funniest thing in the world is they booked Damian as the strongest one in the whole bunch, and you look at it and you're like, but he doesn't even wrestle in a singles capacity ever
at all.
And you're like, not wasting Damian Priest because he is a remarkable talent. I actually am a huge Priest fan. I think he's underrated. I love his
absolutely
moveset, the look. I think he's underrated on the microphone. The Bad Bunny work he doesn't get enough credit for. He played as big of a role in that as The Miz did.
He is somebody that if they do a draft, you put him on a new brand away from this mess and build him. I think you have something there.
I just think they need to book the Judgment Day bad. I think they could.
I don't think that's savable. To be honest, I don't think
I was saying this on the first episode the other day, right? I have a friend who's a very casual wrestling fan, used to be into it, right? And he just watched a bit of Raw the other week, and he saw the Judgment Day, and he was like, "This is the coolest thing I've seen in so long."
Yeah.
So to the casual fan and stuff, to the person who's not watching every week, they look really, really cool.
The look is incredible. The entrance is great.
Oh yeah,
all of that. No, I agree.
I think they can. I think they really can save it. And I think the Dominic. Okay, we talked about the Dominic stuff the other day as well. Well, yesterday.
It's the China Eddie Guerrero thing.
Yeah, it might harm him.
It's the China Eddie reboot. But
it's the Dominic and Rhea stuff's really entertaining.
Oh,
as long as then you make Finn and Priest look serious, right? So if you're making Dominic look a bit like a clown, whatever, as long as you make Ray and Priest look not Ray, Finn and Priest look serious, you're fine. You could make them be a legitimate faction because Rhea's already looking great.
You could absolutely book Finn a lot like Shawn and Diesel, with Damian being his backup. You could build that. You could eventually have Damian going, "I'm sick of carrying you," and then feud. Like I mean, there's a number of things you could do to make it work, but it feels like Judgment Day's kind of going two different directions. It's Finn feuding with Edge. It's Dominic and Rhea feuding with Ray, and Damian just kind of in the middle going, where do I go? That's kind of what it is right now.
They're just too non-threatening as a whole.
Yeah. It is
like they should be more dangerous. Like there's no
apart from Rhea.
Yeah, apart from Rhea. Rhea is but by the way, she mostly just hits dudes.
It's China, like, yes.
Right? She mostly just hits dudes. It's not like she's wrestling in the women's singles division at all. Hardly, right? Like, you know what I mean? She's not in the title picture. She's got the weird. It's like they're hinting at they're gonna build to this big intergender match maybe later with Ray, but it does also feel like as much as yes they've built up Ray up, we also already kind of knew she's a badass, didn't we? Like of all of them.
It's true, but she's a lot more entertaining now.
I think she's more entertaining for sure. I think she had a lot of damage when she was
from the babyface run. I would actually get that.
I would say from the babyface run, she had her Mania moment with Asuka. It was not a good match, and then she had that the rivalry with Charlotte, and that the Money in the Bank match is phenomenal. But then Rhea Ripley's put in. Oh, she's tagging with Nikki Ash.
Yeah,
and then Nikki turns on her. Rhea goes, "I don't want to be put in a tag team," and then proceeds to be put in tag team with Liv Morgan, which they were a good team, but then again, Rhea Ripley lost. I don't want to say she lost her shine, but she lost her shine. This run, becoming the dark, doing the black hair, doing this. I don't want to say muscle mommy, but like the strong person she is.
I mean, that's pretty much what she's been, muscle mommy.
No, 100%. Like,
she's calling
isn't it?
She's 100% had that run of this. This is what she is meant to be. She's meant to be a heel. She's meant to be an ass kicker. She's meant to be a strong, dominant persona.
My favorite thing about it, though, is
that's the thing. I like the fact that they've built her back.
They've got her paired up with Dom on screen. She in real life's dating Buddy Matthews, and then they had Buddy on screen with Dom's little sister last year. It's still just that will never get old to me. That is hilarious.
The cycle that this is all
it's the circle of life. It's the thing.
I mean, this all starts with Dominic's custody in a ladder match.
Exactly.
When
it's Eddie's fault.
This all goes back. Like it's all tied. Eddie tied to China. It's all going back to that.
Yeah,
history's repeating itself.
No, it really is. But I mean, I think the Judgment Day can be saved, honestly, right? But we've got some comments here. Adam York. He's saying, I'd love for you guys to do a watch along with one of the big wrestling shows such as Raw, Nitro. It's basically an old wrestling show. I think.
Well, that's I love that. Yeah,
and in Sam Island.
Absolutely,
he's agreeing too, and I think.
Yeah, Sam.
We've mentioned this multiple times.
We can work something like that out.
we could do it, but the issue we have with it, right, is basically finding a way in which we can do that, right? So we could all sync it up so we're all on the same minute, but then we need to figure out a way to make sure the viewer could also sync theirs up if they wanted to, so they could watch it along with us at the same time. But if there's demand for that, we could totally do something. But yeah, it's something which we'd have to work out how we could do it, and also
there's legal reasons on us like being able to live stream their shows.
Yeah,
it'd almost be like something where we'd have to tell the audience to press play at the same time as us.
Yeah,
I mean, the way we could pull that off.
I do it a lot.
Definitely discuss this though. By the way,
I watched them multiple times.
Yeah,
I watch these a lot for football. As in America, call it soccer. But the difference is then they put the time on screen because there's a clock in the corner at all times in football. Whereas for wrestling shows there isn't that, and if you're watching on the network and Peacock, it's actually a couple of seconds out, depending on what you're watching.
The time is different for Peacock and the network.
Yeah,
it's a very.
I do think it's something that's doable. We just got to figure out the right.
Like that's the thing. Yeah. We'd have to figure it out. We'd have to sit there on. We'd have to figure out how to stream. Like if it's me or Ben streaming it to us, so we are at the same time,
right?
But then again, we can't if we did this,
the audience is going to be at the same time as us.
Well, but if we did this in Zoom, we can't share the screen and not record the stream,
right?
The screen. So theoretically, unless. StreamYard could help with that, and that's what we're on right now.
Yeah, we could
sponsored by StreamYard. We're not. We're kidding. We'd love to be though.
If they want to, though.
Yeah. Hit us up, StreamYard.
It's something that we would have to figure out, and
it's not off the table. It's something we've.
It's not.
It's figuring out the logistics.
Yeah,
it's something that we've done because we've watched how many wrestling shows together within the past.
We do it not live, summer. Basically.
We do. We almost watch Raw, SmackDown, and then Raw, SmackDown, and Dynamite together almost every week.
Not to rub it into who asked. Those streams are incredibly fun.
Oh, yeah. By the way, it's my cousin Adam Anthony, so you're good.
Okay.
It's Adam.
Shout out Adam York.
I'll look into it, right? But I think if we go old enough and we pause it quite regularly to talk about it, there might be a possibility we could screen share. But I need to have a look at that.
Could we?
Can you blur the image to them?
You could do. I think you could either do that, or isn't there the trick of if you were to download,
there is that trick. Yeah,
everybody in wrestling all of a sudden starts working on the right side instead of the left.
Then it would feel a little dodgy if we do have to do that, because the reason I say this is Ryan Satan used to. I know obviously he's under contract for Fox or whatever, but on his own personal Twitch channel, which has nothing to do with WWE. He often watches old stuff and shows it on screen. So that's why I'm like, is there a way in which you can?
Maybe
I'll have to look into it.
Taped show or an older show. That's actually
it is. Yeah.
It's
actually,
very
really old, from the 90s.
Yeah. At the end of the day, we can just do it with indie wrestling.
Oh no!
You can do some, Andy.
What's it? Progress say, "Don't be a dick." Yeah, they're gonna.
Progress says, "Don't be a dick," and they always open their show saying, "Don't be a dick." Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, you can't have that.
Yeah.
Except for that, we just said it on this.
What is Defiant gonna do? Defiant doesn't operate anymore.
Well, you know what we could do?
You'll somehow find the guy with the cease and desist letter, Cope. You'll somehow find the guy.
Yeah.
We'll get that.
Also, if there's an indie promotion that wants us to watch one of their stuff on air and bring some ice to it, let us know and we can do that.
We do have some ties to Warrior.
We do. Maybe we'll hit up Warrior.
We got Warrior. I think Wrestle Prestige is following
along
me
on Warrior.
I got a couple accounts on my.
Could hit up EC3.
We theoretically could do CYN. I got a couple wrestling accounts actually following me on Twitter.
Look at you.
Yeah, well, there we are. We got multiple ties then to them. But anyway, guys,
I guess to close it.
Oh, here we go.
We got challenged. If we did a four, we would win.
That's amazing. Oh man.
That's actually my best mate, Jacob.
That is an excellent question, Jacob. I think it depends on who's booking. I'm going to answer it that way.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
There would
Theoretically,
probably be a soul run.
Who's the booker? Yeah,
theoretically, Clark's going to be the one to dominate because he's the athlete here.
Yeah.
And then there'll be
That's sweet of you to say that.
It'll either be me or Soul who would be the one who fights dirty.
I mean, honestly, Soul would run in and take everyone out.
Yeah.
Soul's gonna super kick everyone.
Soul would run in. That's the answer.
Soul's gonna super kick everyone. Soul's gonna super kick everyone. Draw Soul. He's gonna spray paint Soul Sessions on the wrestling mat and then leave.
Oh my gosh! Another shout out to Mountain Dew.
Yes.
There we. Okay, it's not alcohol. Soul's doing shots off. It's Mountain Dew. There we are.
The whole time it's
Black Mountain Dew.
Yeah.
Pitch black. Shout out Mountain Dew Pitch Black.
It's Mountain Dew Pitch Black.
Okay.
But anyway, guys, thank you to everyone for watching this. We'll be back here tomorrow. Are we going 7 or 8 tomorrow? Let me quickly.
I can't remember if it's same time, same place, or if it's an hour off.
I think it was the same time.
I think it's same time.
Yes, tomorrow is 7 as well. So we'll be back here 7 BST, 2 p.m. EST, and 11 a.m. PST. And then I think that's 11 a.m. Canadian time. Well, not Canadian time.
That's 11 Clark. It's 1 for me.
Yeah, it's 11 for me. We'll see you in 22 hours and 54 minutes.
I'm all over the place.
No. It's 23. Wow, yeah, 22 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see you in 23 hours.
I finally did math.
Yeah, you did math.
I did.